Bhagavad Leela, Dasma Skanda, Chapter 82. Krishna Balaram Brijbasi Milan at Kurukshetra. Krishna and Balaram meet the inhabitants of Vrndavana at Kurukshetra. This reunion of the Yadus and Brishnis of Kurukshetra is being narrated by Shukadev out of chronological sequence. Srila Sanatana Goswami explains in his Vaishnav Toshani commentary on Dasma Skanda that the events of this chapter occur after Balaram's visit to Braj, chapter 65, and before Maharaj Yudhisthira's Rajasuya sacrifice in 74. This must be so because at Kurukshetra, Dhritarashtra, Vidur, Yudhisthira, Bhishma and Drona were still on friendly terms and happy to see Krishna. However, at the Rajasuya Yagya of Yudhisthira, described previously in 9 chapters previous, chapter 74, Duryodhana became extremely jealous of the Pandavas and afterwards challenged them to a gambling match. By cheating, Duryodhana exiled the Pandavas to the forest. According to the Mahabharata, Van Parva, Shalva and Dantavakra were also killed at this time. As soon as the Pandavas returned from exile, the battle of Kurukshetra took place, during which Bhishma and Drona were killed. Therefore, it is not logically possible for the solar eclipse at Kurukshetra to have happened after the Rajasuya sacrifice. So it's appearing now as chapter 82, but it should have appeared before chapter 74. Knowing of a great eclipse of the sun, people from all over India gathered at Kurukshetra, because it is understood that one gains tremendous sukriti or piety by observing a grahan, Surya Grahan, solar eclipse at the place of Kurukshetra and Dharmakshetra. People came to Kurukshetra from all parts of Bharatvarsha to bathe in the Samanta Panchaka lakes, which were previously created by the blood of all the kings slaughtered by Parashuram. Of course, now is water. Krishna's grandson Aniruddha remained in Dwarka to protect the city, because Aniruddha is Lord Vishnu's original manifestation as a guardian of the spiritual planet Shwetadweep. Shining like the airplanes of the demigods, the Yadavas' chariots appeared very effulgent while moving in procession. The Yadavas, the saintly Yadavas, observed fasting and bathed properly at Samanta Panchaka, and worshipped the Brahmanas, fed them sumptuously. After the fast, after the eclipse, they bathed the next day. Everyone was very joyful to meet old friends, and their faces bloomed with beauty. The men embraced one another enthusiastically, tears pouring from their eyes, and the hairs in their bodies standing erect and their voices choked. Everyone felt blissful. The women glanced at each other with pure smiles of loving friendship, and when they embraced each other, their breasts smeared with saffron paste pressed against one another as their eyes filled with tears of affection. Then everyone offered obeisances to the elders. Kunti met with her children and sisters. Kunti spoke to her brother Vasudeva. I think, O Vasudeva, my brother, I think myself devoid of punya, since you are my dear brother. Though so proper in conduct, you did not remember me when I was in difficulty. It was my bad fortune, it was not your fault. Kunti did not blame her relatives for her suffering. That's why she addressed them in these verses 19 as most saintly persons. She blames her bad fortune on her own unhappiness. Her brother replied, O most affectionate one, my dear younger sister Kunti, do not find fault in us, your brother, and the other relatives, who are like playthings in the hands of fate. One acts on his own, or is made to act under the control of the Lord. Kunti, tormented by Kamsa, we all fled to various places. The Yadavas fled in fear, but Vasudeva couldn't flee, so he was imprisoned. O sister, only recently have we returned to our homes. Everyone was honoring each other, and so much royalty was there. Bhishma, Drona, Dhritarashtra, all the Kurus were there, the Pandavas, the Kurus, the Brishnis, the Yadavas. As I mentioned, this is before Kurukshetra. When Nanda Maharaj learned that the Yadavas had arrived in Kurukshetra, he immediately went to see them, along with all the Gopas of Braj, with their wagons in procession. Their carts were loaded with milk products and other foods, which they intended to feed Krishna and Balaram while living with them at Kurukshetra. Seeing Nanda, the Brishnis were delighted after not seeing them for so long, and they embraced them tightly. Vasudeva embraced Nanda Maharaj with great joy, beside himself with ecstatic love. Krishna and Balaram were first embraced by their parents, and then they embraced their parents in return. After Nanda and Yashoda released Krishna and Balaram from a loving embrace, the brothers offered obeisances to them. Krishna and Balaram could not speak because their hearts were choked up with tears of love. Vasudeva led Nanda and Yashoda into his tent as they held the hands of Krishna and Balaram. Rohini followed them inside along with other women and men of Braj and a number of attendants. Then what did Nanda and Yashoda do? They raised their two sons, Krishna and Balaram, onto their laps, and holding them in their arms, Nanda and stately mother Yashoda forgot their sorrow. You have to remember, at this time at Kurukshetra, Krishna was about 50, 60 years old, a big Kshatriya. And a mother always thinks of her child as her baby. First Nanda and then Yashoda eagerly welcomed their sons. How was it possible for them to offer their own seats to their sons, who now showed so much opulence as royalty? Nanda and Yashoda, due to their spontaneous Vatsalya Bhav, parental love, always thought of Krishna and Balaram as their 8-year-old sons, even though they had heard and seen their opulences and powers now that they were ruling in Dwarka. While sitting with Nanda and Yashoda and being embraced by them, Krishna fully transformed into a cowherd boy. Vasudeva then called Nanda outside to meet Ugrasena and the other elder Yadus. Taking this opportunity, Rohini and Devaki talked with Queen Yashoda. Rohini and Devaki, who were now living in Dwarka with all the other Yadavas and Krishna and Balaram, they said to Yashoda, while keeping Krishna and Balaram on her lap and embracing them, Yashoda's mind became completely bewildered and stunned in bliss. Tears from her eyes and milk from her breast poured in continuous streams like the Ganga and Jamuna. Rohini spoke first. Rajeshri, even if we attain the wealth of Indra, there is no way to repay you for your friendship. Then Devaki, before speaking, she thought, alas, for so long these two sons of mine had Yashoda as their guardian and mother. Because Krishna and Balaram were immersed in such a vast ocean of ecstatic loving dealings with Yashoda, now that she is here, they do not even look at us, even though we are standing before them. Blinded by her love for Krishna and Balaram, Yashoda is behaving as if insane. Yashoda is showing millions of times more motherly affection than I could ever possess. Thus Yashoda simply keeps staring at us, her friends, without even recognizing us. So let me bring her back to reality on the pretext of some affectionate words. Thinking like this, Devaki then spoke in a slightly loud voice. Having not seen their real parents, these two boys received great affection from you two as parents. I placed them safely with you, and they live there in Braj without fear. Brajeshwari, you protected Krishna and Balaram, just as the eyelids protect the eye, because great devotees do not distinguish between their own or other children. Vishwanath comments, this is text 38. The actual fact, however, is that Krishna and Balaram, adrishta pitaro, which is in the verse, which means had not seen their parents, Rohini and Devaki, for two reasons. Because of their exile in Braj, and also because they are never actually born, and therefore they have no parents. After speaking like this, when Devaki failed to get any response from Mother Yashoda, Rohini then spoke up. My dear Devaki, it is impossible right now to rouse Yashoda out of her ecstatic trance. We are simply crying in the wilderness, as her two sons are also bound up by the ropes of affection for her. Let us leave now, go outside this tent and meet with Kunti and Draupadi and our other friends who are very eager to see us. Because having to meet so many people on this pilgrimage, we simply do not have enough time to stay long in only one place. After saying this, Rohini and Devaki excused themselves and went outside to leave Yashoda alone with Krishna and Balaram. When the Braja Gopis now saw Krishna at Kurukshetra after such a long separation, and they embraced Krishna to their full satisfaction, in this way they became totally absorbed in ecstatic meditation on Krishna. Although those who constantly practice mystic yoga find such absorption difficult to achieve. Just then, Baladev saw the gopis standing at a short distance away. Seeing them trembling with eagerness to meet Krishna, and apparently ready to give up their lives if they could not. Seeing the gopis standing a short distance away from Krishna, and seeing that they were trembling with eagerness to meet Krishna, and apparently ready to give up their lives if they could not, Balaram, the crest jewel of expert gentleman, tactfully decided to get up and involve himself elsewhere. The gopis then attained the ecstatic state described in this verse. Vishwanath says, the gopis were the ones who cursed the creator Brahma for making eyelids which obstructed their vision of Krishna. Though as women, the gopis ordinarily would have shown the highest respect to any demigod, but under the impulse of ecstatic love, they even cursed the chief of all the demigods, Brahma. Such was the intolerance of their separation from seeing Krishna. Here in verse 39, Shukadeva Goswami gives vent to his own subtle jealousy of the gopis, to whom Krishna had bestowed such intense feelings of separation. Pulling Krishna towards themselves with their glances, the gopis took him into their hearts through the doorway of their eyes. Then they wrapped him in a tight embrace, and then attained a rare state of Mahabhav, ecstatic absorption in Krishna. In verse 39 is saying Tadbhavam. Overwhelmed with a sense of oneness with Krishna by this glance, the gopis then made such statements as they made previously in Rasa Panchadaya. Krishna aham pashita gatim. I am Krishna. Just see how gracefully I move. Another meaning of this tadbhavam apurapi nitya yujam durapam means that the gopis achieved a state that is rarely durapam attained even by the crest jewel of self-satisfied sages, nitya yujam, and the great masters of yoga such as Shiva. This statement of verse 39, together with the idea that even though the Braja Gopis are of such a status, Krishna will now teach them adhyatma gyan, knowledge of the self, as he did earlier when he sent a message through Uddhava. This is further expression of Shukadeva Goswami's jealousy. Or else the meaning is the gopis attain Mahabhav, which is rarely achieved even by the Nitya Yujam, which is in the verse, which can refer to Krishna's principal queens in Dwarka like Rukmini, who tend to be proud of their constant association with Krishna. Krishna approached the gopis in a secluded place at Kurukshetra as they stood in their ecstatic trance. After embracing each of them and inquiring about their well-being, he laughed and spoke as follows. Before meeting the gopis, he was sitting with Balarama on the lap of Yashoda in a tent at Kurukshetra during the eclipse. And Balarama saw that the gopis were at a distance, staring lovingly at Krishna, so he very tactfully excused himself and went elsewhere. Getting up from Yashoda's lap, Krishna went to a secluded place to talk and mingle freely with the gopis, who were stunned in ecstasy, as described in verse 39. Krishna expanded himself by his Vibhuti Shakti to embrace each of the gopis individually. Krishna embraced them so tightly that each gopi woke up from her ecstatic trance. He inquired, "Are you now relieved of your pain of separation?" And then he laughed to help lighten their spirits. My dear girlfriends, do you still remember me? For the sake of my relatives like Vasudeva, I went off to Mathura to kill Kansa and other demons. Due to being absorbed in vanquishing the armies of the demons, I have been delayed and have not found an opportunity to return to Braj. Nevertheless, do you still remember me? At this point, the gopis were thinking, we are not like you, who, with your heart shattered by remembering us day and night, gave up all sense enjoyment and your distress of separation from us. Rather, we have not remembered you at all. In fact, we have been quite happy without you. Seeing that the gopis were answering angrily by moving their eyebrows to suggest the above words, Krishna spoke. Do you perhaps hold us in contempt because of the suspicion that he is ungrateful? Well, if that is the case, what can I do about this? Please listen to the facts. It is the Supreme Lord who unites and separates all living beings. Just as the wind unites and separates clouds, grass, dust, and pieces of cotton, only to scatter them again, the Lord unites and separates all living entities. Mai bhaktir hi bhutanam amritatvaya kalpate dishtya yad asin matsneho bhavatinam marapana. Krishna told the gopis, rendering devotional service to me qualifies any living being for eternal life. Amritvaya kalpa. But by your good fortune you have developed a special loving attitude toward me, by which you have attained me. Gopis replied, O crest jewel of clever speakers, that Supreme Lord you are blaming for our separation is none other than yourself. Everyone in the world knows this, So why should we be ignorant of this fact? Krishna replies, but my dear girlfriends, if this is true, I must be God. But still, I am conquered by your loving affection. Thus Krishna speaks this verse, just by devotion to me one can achieve liberation, Amrit Tattvaya. But that you gopis have attained affection for me is my good fortune, since it causes you to attain me. The hidden meaning of Krishna's words in text 44 is, O Braja Gopis, your affection drags me to you by force. It brings me close to you, and it assures that very soon I will come to permanently remain with you. Krishna continued, dear ladies, furthermore, if you know that I am the Supreme Lord, then you should not feel any suffering and separation from me. Your happiness must be due to a lack of discrimination. Therefore, please accept this instruction from me, which will remove your ignorance. Actually, the truth of the matter is that you gopis were great yoga masters in your previous lives, and thus you already learned the science of Gyan Yoga. Furthermore, whether I try to teach you personally or through my representatives, which I did before through Uddhava, it will not produce the desired result. Gyan Yoga simply causes suffering for those who are fully immersed in pure love of Godhead. With this in mind, Krishna speaks this verse. O Gopis, I am the beginning and end of all created beings, and exist both within and without them, as the elements ether, water, earth, air, and fire are the beginning and end of all material objects, and exist both within and without them. Krishna said, of all beings, namely demigods, humans, and animals, I am the beginning and end. I am present both inside and outside of them, just as the 5 primary elements exist within all bodies from beginning to end. O young ladies, Angana, since you are only women, you do not understand this truth about me. Krishna continues, in this way the material elements such as ether exist in all bodies of all created beings, and the soul pervades the body in his own true form. You should see that the material elements, their products, and the living entities are all manifested within and pervaded by me, the imperishable, perfectly complete Supreme Soul and underlying reality of everything, Adhisthana Tattva. Thus it is established that your bodies and souls exist within me at all times. Therefore, what is the source of your feelings of separation from me? It is simply caused by your lack of discrimination. Then he goes on to say, in this way, all created beings reside within the basic elements of creation, while the spirit souls pervade the creation, remaining in their own true identity. Gopis, you should see both of these, the material creation and the self, as manifest within me, the imperishable supreme truth. Vishwanath. Sanatana Goswami gives the esoteric meaning of the last 5 verses, 42 through 46. These instructions that Sri Krishna is giving at Kurukshetra to enlighten his gopis. He's saying that this, by using these different words from the verse, he's saying, the scorching sun of the gopis' incessant meditation on Krishna, arising from their feelings of separation from him, destroyed the inner essence of their night-blooming lotus-like lives, just as a flower is destroyed by the excessive sunlight. The only thing that kept the gopis alive was their hope of attaining Krishna. The gopis realized, this one who taught us about Dharma at the beginning of the rasa dance, even though we had not asked anything about it, and who later instructed us in the principles of theoretical knowledge, Gyan Yoga, through Uddhava, is now again teaching us philosophical knowledge. We should know that this is Krishna's nature, and it is hard for him to give it up. because some of these verses are talking about the coverings and elements. It is not correct to say that jiva koshas, which is mentioned in previous verse, means the subtle material body, linga deya, of the gopis, because the eternal associates of Krishna do not have material bodies. It cannot be accepted that even the sadhanas of the gopis who enjoyed with Krishna had material bodies. After instructing the gopis in spiritual matters, came to understand him fully. The gopis returned by speaking, "Dear Lord, whose navel is like a lotus flower, your lotus feet are the only shelter for those fallen in the deep well of Maya. Your feet are worshipped and meditated upon by great yogis. We wish that these feet may also awaken within our hearts, because we are simply ordinary grihastas." Although these words seem full of reverence, the gopis are actually speaking in the following mood of anger, says Vishwanath. "O Supreme Lord, O directly manifest Supersoul, O crest jewel of teachers of Gyan Yoga, understanding that we have great attachment to house, wealth, and family, you previously had Uddhava instruct us, and now personally you are purifying our hearts with knowledge to destroy that ignorance of material attachment. Thus we understand that your pure love for us is free from any other motivation than assuring our liberation. But how can we, unintelligent cowherd women, fix that knowledge in our hearts? We do not have the power of mind to meditate steadily on your feet, which are the focus of realization for great, powerful intellectuals like Brahma. Therefore, please be merciful to us and do something to make that possible. We are still suffering the reactions of our karma, so how can we meditate on your feet when our minds are full of contamination? Your feet are the object of meditation for the masters of yoga who are free from karma. Such yogis are immeasurably wise, but we are mere feeble-minded women of a village. Please do something else to get us out of this deep well of suffering in material life." Vishnu says, the gopi's statement, "May your lotus feet arise in the minds of us who are so attached to family life," reveals their hidden anger. The following verse, 49, illustrates that pure devotees are never motivated by a desire for material elevation or spiritual liberation. Even if Krishna offers such benedictions, they often refuse to accept them. And then actually recite some verses from the 11th canto. Is someone who's a devotee, his consciousness is fixed on Krishna, he won't accept any kind of opulence, even Indraloka or Brahmaloka. Because saintly devotees possess deep intelligence, they dedicate themselves to me, O Uddhava, and do not desire anything besides me. Even if I offer them liberation from death, they do not accept it. This is Uddhava Gita. Then in 6th canto of Bhagavatam, my pure devotees regard heaven and hell as one and the same. Vishnu says, Krishna's devotees never accept liberation, which is a result of Gyan, which is being preached to the gopis by Krishna and his Gyan Yoga. How then could the gopis, the crest jewel of all pure devotees, accept Gyan? Thus in verse 48, it is appropriate that the gopis express their anger upon hearing the unbearable teachings of spiritual knowledge, Adhyatma Gyan, from the mouth of their most dearly beloved. Words the gopis speak in this verse may also be interpreted as follows. The gopis said, O Krishna, O sun who directly destroys the darkness of ignorance, we are scorched by the heat of this philosophical knowledge which you are giving us. We are chakora birds who can live only by receiving moonlight. What moonlight? The moonlight radiating from the moon of your beautiful face, Krishna Chandra. Therefore, come with us back to Vrindavan and bring us back to life with your pastimes such as Ras Leela. The masters of yoga meditate upon your lotus feet within their hearts. But we, the damsels of Braj, we hold your feet above our hearts, upon our breasts. Only by holding them are we able to maintain our lives, and not otherwise. Those with deep intelligence meditate on your feet, but we are not so intelligent. We have shallow intelligence. Therefore, as soon as we start meditating on your lotus feet, we drown in an ocean of swooning. So what is the question of meditating? Furthermore, meditation upon them is the means of upliftment from the well of material existence. But such meditation cannot uplift us who have fallen into an ocean of separation from you, not a mere well. Certainly we gopis have not fallen in the well of material life, griham andakupam, because we have renounced the happiness of husband, home, and children from the very earliest of our lives. After saying this, if Krishna might say, well, listen, gopis, why not come to Dwarka, and I will enjoy with you there? And the gopis reply, Sri Vrndavana is our home, and we are too attached to take up residence anywhere else. It is there alone that you attract us by wearing peacock feathers in your turban and playing and chanting music on your flute. We can be saved only by seeing you in Braj, and not by any other kind of meditation or theoretical knowledge of the self, Atmagyan. Jaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Shyam Jaya Jaya Shri Vrndavana Pavana Radhe Tero Nam Pavana Shri Vrndavana Jaya Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Shyam Jaya Jaya Shri Vrndavana. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Jai Shri Radhe.